I thought last week's episode of Impact was the best episode of the UK tour, and frankly, what I wish the rest of the tour had been like. So did TNA stick the landing on the last show before they head back to the States? Let's find out. There was a time, a very long period of time, when I would have been ranting and raging and flipping over tables about TNA putting on an Ultimate X match in the curtain jerker spot on a random episode of Impact with no hype, no fanfare whatsoever, like it's just any other match. I don't feel like doing that anymore. Why? Because there's not much point. Like it or not, the Ultimate X just doesn't mean what it used to. TNA have done so many of these damn things over the years. It's not something really special they save for special occasions anymore. It's become just another gimmick match. So try as I might, I really can't muster up any genuine indignation about it at this point. I've done that, you've heard it, let's just deal with what we have. It's still a really fun match at the very least, albeit on the short side. It has actually been a little while since the last one. And the UK tour, where you want to be putting your best foot forward, is not the worst time ever to break out a match like this. So you know what? You want to do it Ultimate X? Fine. Go for it. You could have promoted it ahead of time, but hey, what the hell do I know? I'm just some idiot on YouTube. The feud is between the Wolves and the Revolution, but they put the bromance in there too for some reason. I'm not sure why. At least they had the good sense to use Zema Ion instead of Robbie E, thank God. He would have done nothing here. And Ion and Jesse Goddard do seem to work better together, so whatever.
Please, get the camera off Robbie. He really gets on my nerves.
I don't have a lot to say about it. There's not much in the way of storytelling here, but it's a fun match. They do all the spots you'd expect. The right team went over. It was a perfectly good spot fest and a cool treat for the fans in Wembley. I'm pretty sure that was the first time they've done an Ultimate X over there, and it got the show off to a hot start. All things considered, this could have been so much worse. Austin Aries wants his world title briefcase back from the Beatdown Clan, so he calls them out. Low-Key and Samoa Joe show up, and Aries ends up in a match with Joe. Again, perfectly fine match, no complaints. I was fine with the DQ finish. You couldn't really have Aries lose to Joe, that would have been stupid because Joe is leaving. But you couldn't really have Aries go over clean, or you make the BDC look weak again. DQ finish covers that, so fine. And that was Samoa Joe's last match in TNA. Apparently, they couldn't agree on a new contract for him, so he's moving on. And I haven't talked about this yet. I figured I'd wait until it was time. It's unfortunate. Another longtime TNA original leaving, the last of the Unbreakable Three, one of the main guys who helped build the company. Also, a guy who had been the victim of a lot of bad booking over the years, who didn't seem all that inspired by a lot of the stuff he'd been given, who was working kind of a safer wrestling style these days, whose character you could argue was kind of stale and hadn't been incredibly hot for some time now. It's disappointing. It's a loss for the company, definitely. But is it as big a loss as it would have been, say, 5-6 years ago? I don't know if I'd go that far. I'll miss Joe. I think a lot of people will. But time goes on, people move on. The company really wants to invest in newer, younger talent right now. This frees up some money to do that. And it gives Joe a chance to go somewhere new and refresh his character. Personally, I think a change of scenery might do him a lot of good. I wish they could have found a way to keep Joe, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. So Aries outmaneuvers Joe and Low-Key, gets his briefcase back, and then
Rockstar Spud is in the building!
Fuck yes! Rockstar Spud cashes in his Feast or Fire title shot on Low-Key and wins the X Division title. This was great! A little rushed? Maybe, but I didn't even care. It's a British talent winning his first championship in Britain, the crowd loved it, and I loved it too. Spud's character has been one of the biggest success stories on this show in the last year, and he fucking deserved that, damn it. I hope he gets a long run with that title.
Yes!
And I'll go one better. Rockstar Spud is exactly the guy who should be the X Division champion right now. And why is that? Because the writers are actually invested in him. The company is obviously high on Spud. Most of the X Division roster is just a bunch of bodies in a crowd that don't stand out from each other and whom the writers seem to have no interest in. Even Low-Key did nothing with the belt. I'm pretty sure that was his one and only title defense since he won it from Aries, if memory serves. But here's a guy, Rockstar Spud, who is really over, who's really hot right now, who gets storylines, character development, mic time, who just came out of a high-profile feud in the best main event on this show in ages last week. This is an X Division guy that they might actually want to build around and focus on. I think Spud is exactly the X Division champion we need right now. So hats off to Spud, man. That was a great moment, and very well deserved, too.
The Rockstar Spud has left the building.
Remember how Randy Orton turned on Seth Rollins, beat the shit out of him for like 10 minutes straight, RKO'd him through a table, and then Rollins was back on Raw the very next week without a scratch, not selling a damn thing? Stuff like that really makes me appreciate this Magnus and Bram feud. Bram attacked Magnus in an alley. Magnus was off TV selling the attack for weeks. Him being off the show for half the UK tour was ill-timed, yeah, but it made it mean something when he came back, and it makes it more impactful when he does stuff to Bram like he did here. We cut to them, and Magnus is just beating the piss out of Bram backstage. They brawl to the ring, going nuts, trying to tear each other apart. Magnus grabs a chair and just waffles Bram with it over and over, and it ends with him powerbombing Bram on the fucking ramp, which looked like it hurt like hell. This segment was dynamite. There was a lot of energy here. This, to me, had all the brutal intensity and raw emotion that the Bobby Roode-Eric Young feud should have had, but for some reason just didn't. I totally believe that these guys really despise each other right now, which I think says a lot about Magnus and Bram just being more adept at selling an angle like this. And something else that was great about this segment, I really loved it when Mickie James got physically involved. You know, for all WWE's talk about how they're giving divas a chance now, it's all just a bunch of bullshit, because we can see that nothing has really changed and the divas are just as meaningless as they were before. A couple of weeks ago, they did an angle on Raw where Cena had Rusev locked in the STFU, basically torturing Rusev until he gave Cena a match with him at WrestleMania. Lana is outside the ring, pretty much begging Cena to stop. "John, please stop this. We'll do anything. All right, you can have your match. You can have anything, John. Just stop." And what was stupid about this is, if Lana was so desperate, why didn't she just jump on Cena's back and try to pry him off of Rusev herself? She knew Cena wouldn't lay a finger on her because he's Cena. He doesn't do that. But no, she just begs and gives him exactly what he wants because she's a powerless woman against the almighty Super Cena. But here, Mickie James has a problem with Bram, and you know what she does? She fucking attacks Bram. He's a man, bigger and stronger than she is. She don't give a fuck. She just kicks him right in the balls and goes to town on the sumbitch. He was already hurt from the attack by Magnus. He didn't lose anything. And you know what? It's really fucking cool. This is why I've been saying TNA should do more intergender stuff. One, because it's different. And two, because WWE doesn't respect their divas enough to do anything like that. And it's gotten to a point where their fan base is pissed off about it. And how can TNA capitalize on that? By doing more stuff like this.
Ain't this an old-fashioned shot to the nutsack?
Kong versus Gale versus Terran for the Knockouts title. This was the big Knockouts match they've been building up to since Kong came back. I had some concerns going in about how this was going to play out, but I think they were put to rest here. Kong does look a little slower than she used to be. It's obvious her back is bothering her, but with Gale and Terran working around her, they can compensate for that. This was a really, really good Knockouts match, about which my only complaint was that it wasn't longer. They did some big spots, diving from the turnbuckle to the floor, sunset flip, powerbomb, all that stuff. And we even got some storytelling here, imagine that. Terran is getting really frustrated that she can't manage to put a dent in Kong's armor. Gale doesn't seem to think she can beat Kong. She's like, "Terran, just get off the turnbuckle, let me handle this." And Terran pins Gale and wins the match, but she kind of feels like she lost. The seed of doubt is planted in her mind now that I need to beat Kong to really prove myself as the champion, but maybe I can't beat her, so what the hell do I do? This is actually a compelling dilemma for Terran. A lot more compelling than anything the Bella Twins are doing on Raw right now, that's for sure. Good stuff. Well, it's been a few weeks now since TNA had a Street Fighter and no DQ match, and God knows we can't have that. So they do James Storm and Matt Hardy. The match is okay. They do the thumbtack bump that they always have to do. I'm really desensitized to all this stuff by now, but they worked hard and they had a good bout here. It got a little bit ridiculous with Matt having to fight off the entire Revolution faction. It shouldn't take all that for Storm to beat this guy, and I don't know why the Wolves never came out to help Matt. But they stacked the odds against him really well, and they set the stage nicely for Jeff coming back next week. I'm kind of burned out on this type of match these days, but this was still a pretty good segment regardless, although they did cut away from it really quickly, which bothered me. Something TNA have really seemed to struggle with over the years is making big matches really feel like big matches. Even at the best of times, when they've got the right matchup with the right story, there's often a case of, oh, I wish they'd done this, or I wish they'd done that, or, oh, if they just spent a little more time doing this, it would have really enhanced it, blah, blah, blah. But this was one of those rare occasions where I think they really got it right. They did just about everything that could be done to build up Angle Lashley. The promos, the stare-downs, the video packages, the interviews, or not doing the interviews in Lashley's case. They stressed that it was the first time Angle and Lashley have ever fought. They had JB do intros for both guys. They gave it like half an hour. And there was a little touch I loved, where they had the cameras follow each guy from the locker room to the arena, just like at a UFC pay-per-view. It's a small detail, but it really made this feel like you were watching an important event here. I love that. So I think TNA did everything they possibly could to give this the hashtag big match feel, and I think they pulled it off. I was a lot more engaged here than I thought I'd be because of all this. The match was about as good as we could have hoped for from these guys. It was very solid with a lot of extra gravitas added because TNA did such a great job building it up and presenting it like a big event the way they did. Angle wins, which is cool. I would have been fine with either, but Kurt does deserve another run with the title. He doesn't have a ton of mileage left, but he's earned that. And they stayed on it for several minutes after the match was over and really let the moment sink in. This is how you present big matches. TNA really got it right this time.
Yes! 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 Yes!
And overall, a very good impact here in my opinion. I think last week's episode is still my favorite of the UK tour, but they did all the right things here too. They had the big moments, a big event-type match, memorable things happening. They stuck the landing on the Maximum Impact tour, and I think those fans were sent home happy. So, a really solid effort from TNA this week. Good job. Over. Out.